All right, welcome back everyone to the Peak Property Performance Podcast. Here I am, Drew Hall, and I've got Bill Douglas with us. Welcome, Bill.
Thanks, Drew. Let me introduce today's guest. Today we have Andrew Stanton, one of the most influential voices and the CEO of PropTech-X. Andrew and I have been working together for the better part of half a decade, but he has spent the past decade working with over 1,000 PropTech founders across the globe, guiding more than 130 startups and advising on 16 successful exits. At least that's the last number I had for him. He could update that in a second. He's seen what's worked, what fails, and what's next in the intersection of property and technology. But here's what I love about Andrew's perspective. He doesn't see PropTech as the shiny object in the room. He and I have talked about this a lot over the years. We see it as a tool, part of a larger ecosystem where data and digital infrastructure are the foundation, and PropTech is the layer that makes everything run smarter, faster, and more profitably. So today we'll all talk about how PropTech truly fits into commercial real estate, into the owner and operator's arsenal, not as a bolt-on gadget, but as a multiplier of value when the underlying infrastructure is owned and controlled by the property itself. Also look at where innovation is heading. Andrew will share with us how investors are thinking about the next wave and what separates the operators who build enduring CRE companies. So Andrew, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
It's lovely to be here. Yeah, the other side of the pond. I'm actually based in London, so I'm in the UK. But as we know, technology, commercial real estate is certainly a global phenomena. And coming out of COVID, I think people have started to rethink how it should all be plumbed together. But yeah, interesting times. And as Bill says, and Drew, we've been working together, many years. And when I first started, I didn't even understand, and this is quite common, what it was they were doing. No, I do. I'm a big advocate, but it's easy. It's always difficult because often you are telling people to use something different and also telling them why. So it's an education and also you need to be doing this. And then that is always, I think, in itself very, very difficult for adoption.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, let's talk a little bit about the prop tech landscape itself. You've sat with more founders and investors than almost anyone in the space. And what is the pulse of prop tech right now, as you would say it, or as you see it?
Yeah, I mean, this the digital transformation, of real estate is happening. We are seeing, obviously, we're coming from an analog world into this new digital age. And why I love it is I'm 62 and I'm an old man. And I always say to people, I belong to the past. We've got these digital natives now. The younger generation are growing up with all of this. And it's how they communicate and will traverse the world and the working world, which obviously will be most of their lives. And we've seen the migration of people from being in buildings to working from home and all the rest of it. But work is always going to exist. And coming back to what's happening in PropTech itself, it's interesting. Just now we are seeing this AI. Is it going to be a burst of a bubble or not? A few years ago in property technology, blockchain was the big messiah. It was the thing that was going to solve everything. And that's kind of faded. I'm not saying, there's certainly an amount of crypto going on in the background, but use cases for commercial real estate and things like that, not so much. Then AI, every time I get a deck, every time I speak to somebody, AI is the new messiah that will sort and shift everything. And again, coming back to Bill's original point, it's much more than that. It's just everyone doing things better, more efficient. That's really what's at the core of everything. AI doesn't solve anything itself. You've got to have people thinking, how are we using this tool to make something work more efficiently for all stakeholders?
So, as billions and billions of dollars have flowed into prop tech over the past few years, what has changed since that, since the initial hype wave? Like, where's the real progress versus where there might still be some vaporware?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great term, is it? Vaporware. Make it up and convince people that it will be something. Yeah. I think what we're seeing is there are so many people doing the same thing, but then it just becomes a kind of attrition. Which of them will be the biggest? Will CoStar be, massive in this area? Right. Okay. They dominate that. Will there be another big, large animal? So I suppose what's happening at the moment is consolidation following on funding is slower, and they're pumping more cash into things they've already pumped cash into. Like a bad gambler, I always see it. We put a tremendous amount of billions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars into certain things, and we're going to continue with that. And sometimes by pushing that amount of money in, it wins. But sometimes I scratch my head and go, that's cost an awful lot of money over a number of years, for that to be the situation. But I think everyone is hopeful that AI will make everything good. And I still think 95% of what's being built out there will fail, because I just think it's a natural part of it. I don't think it's wrong. It's just you don't know which horse to back. I mean, I'm not a gambler, but
Andrew, I was at a AI leadership conference last week, and it became apparent, not just I didn't think it up, I heard it, but it resonated, is a lot of the software platforms we're paying for are starting to implement AI within their platform because it's more efficient. It's a cost driver down, right? Or maybe there's tools. So there are these tools that are purely AI startup, and then there's the behemoths that are just doing it. They're not even buying these anymore. They're just doing it. Like, you used to have Calendly, and now Google just says, we'll fold that into our, that's not AI, but it kind of is, then you have all these email tools, and Gemini is just saying, do it. Microsoft is saying, do the same thing, inside of their tool. So there's going to be massive consolidation in AI, but I do agree that there's a whole lot of noise, and what's the value before you put it in? Like, and that's the conversation we love having here about commercial real estate.
yeah, I think commercial real estate obviously is all about work. Buildings, the buildings we live in, buildings we play in, and buildings that we work in. And I thought was quite interesting, coming back to this AI idea, is Amazon now, their workforce, they've got as many robots as they have human beings. And I started to think the other day that AI really is the thinking part of the workflow. So we use AI to work out what we should do and when. And in a way, is this becoming then the language that we feed to the robots? Because I'm sure that Amazon will not only have in their warehouses robots packaging everything, we will have vehicles driven by robots who will arrive at people's residences to deliver. And when that happens, it will then normalize robots, which will change fundamentally, I think, our view of what can be done by humans and what can be done by robots. And then it kind of turns into, okay, so we go into office blocks to do work. This work is cognitive work. Could it be done by robots? And if so, for many years, I've been using the word Amazon to people when I sort of say, okay, well, this is, be like Amazon, i.e. a speedy service, get what you want, and off you go, and it's done. And now they're using robots. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they're not stupid. This is the future. So therefore, what's the future of work? And I suppose coming back to OpticWise and what you guys do is, and I didn't realize this. I mean, when I first met you, Bill, I knew nothing about commercial real estate. And you told me what the model was. You buy an asset, you fill it full of people, and you buy another one using the money. And you said, yes, but what we do is we make them realize that model isn't working so well these days, not just voids and all the rest of it. I mean, they're in Texas at the moment. There's quite a lot of building going on, new buildings being built. So everyone is clamoring for a smaller amount of the market because there's less people now taking on commercial units. And that's a real problem. So it's a case of how can an operator who owns a building maximize what's going on? And the other key thing perhaps we could talk about right now is who owns the data? Because I've never thought about this either, Bill, until you start talking to me. And I think it's something, as an individual, I think who owns my data is really important. But perhaps we can talk about you guys and how your thoughts on data in offices, because that to me blew my mind. I never thought about it. I just thought, well, it's kind of all siloed off, isn't it? Who cares?
Well, we did talk about, it's a great jumping point, and Drew, chime in. Like, it gets me excited to think about it, because if you don't have your data, somebody does, and somebody's monetizing. But we often talk first and foremost to commercial real estate owners and operators, like who owns and controls your data? Because contractually you might own it, but it's in that vendor system somewhere in the cloud or somewhere on-prem, locked behind something with some login, you can't see it. If you try to get the data, if you ask for a copy that you have the rights to, it's typically horribly unstructured and very delayed. It's not real-time data. It's not actionable. So to own and control your data, you have to own and control the digital infrastructure. And commercial real estate, in our experience over the past decade, is very good at asset management and investing in, that air conditioning unit or that facade or that countertop if it's apartments or, hotel. We have this glorified pool because it's going to draw people in with this restaurant, food and beverage. And, this office building is going to have this mixed use or this golf simulator on the first floor.
Sure.
They're very good at that, but they let the data leak out. We often say, you're going to bring up Amazon. Do you think Amazon would ever let another company come into one of their facilities? Number one, put a network in their building that they don't own and they can't even use. And number two, let all that data go out the door with no rights to it and no monetary benefit from it. I think Bezos and the whole management team there would tell you to go pound salt. Like, you'd be off. No way. Commercial real estate does it every single day. And that's the core point we're just trying to get the industry to change on. Like, so I got on my soapbox a little. I'm sure Drew has something to add, but that's it. Andrew and I have talked about this for the past 5 to 7 years, and we just clarified it in a book, Andrew, but you and I have had this conversation over and over and over again. Like, PropTech only works with good data. So you can buy, and Drew has seen it, our clients have gone to put in PropTech smart thermostats, for instance. Sure. You can buy those and put them in, but why in the world are you using the vendor's network to get all of that data to their portal in the cloud somewhere?
Yeah.
Why isn't it going over your digital infrastructure and you have the data? Sure, they're going to need the data to do their thing, make the thermostats right. The vendor's not going to get excluded, but the vendor needs to be put in their spot. Like, you're supporting us and this data is ours. That's the position shift in the mindset we tried to make in the book and what we talk about here every time we do an episode.
Yeah. I mean, the phrase that's coming to my mind is silent killer. Like, it really is a silent killer if you don't view and organize and design a commercial real estate investment, physical property, as one holistic system. Yeah, you need to make sure that there's enough complexity in the design so you have all the security and everything that's required. However, if every single system is just implemented in a silo, it's just a silent killer. It's only a matter of time before something goes down, before some vendor changes, before there's so many scenarios that we see. And honestly, time ultimately is the thing that induces that death of that particular system or whatever it is. And then there's this scrambling of, well, what is that? Why is this thing down? I don't know. Well, it's usually Jim that we call. Let's call Jim. Wonder if Jim knows. Well, he has a key to that closet, but he loaned it to Jack.
Sure.
And Mary knows where Jack is. And so, like, we talk about this all the time too, like a lack of documentation. So I that's where I see it. And comparing it back to Amazon, I mean, the question is, you would ask, would Amazon ever allow ... Well, obviously, no way. Amazon knows at any point in time, if they need to pull it up, what does this build look like at this highly efficient operation that we just generically call a warehouse? It's so much more. They know what's working, how well it's working, what they might be changing out this month or next month, what's been working for 5 years, those types of things, what's about to go through a refresh, et cetera, et cetera. I can guarantee you there's no lack of knowledge about any little system in the corner. And how does it or how does it not participate in the flow of information?
And
What
that
does
little
it
system
know?
in the corner is not on its own network.
Exactly.
And it does not have siloed data ever. And we're picking on Amazon, but pick Toyota or pick FedEx or pick UPS. Go right through pick a hospital. They all operate on the same premise in this regard as Amazon about data ownership.
Yeah, and it's true in commercial real estate. It's very loosey-goosey when it gets into the tech side of things because, again, a particular vendor is called in, and maybe it's a subcontractor who's called in to implement some system. Let's just say it's a new implementation, and they do some things to make it work. And there's a little bit of, there's a lot, I wouldn't say a lack of transparency, but again, a lack of organization and design and documentation about what is being done. It's just that at the end of it, those who, management, ownership, whatever, who hired them to do the job say, oh, look, I can do this thing. So the system must be good. Let's go. Let's pay that invoice and let's just move on down the road. And there's no consideration for, well, is it going to work tomorrow? How do you know? How do you know it's going to work tomorrow? And even if it does work tomorrow, what do you know about its working? Like, is it sending data? Is it receiving data? Is it making decisions based on its own data, based on any data from any other systems? Those types of things. And so where we sit in this, I don't want to say permanent position, but we kind of sit at this higher level, looking across the entire, let's just say, one particular location, one particular geography of a set of buildings, let's say, and say, what are those systems? Is there a danger of redundancies, undesirable redundancies? Because I realize that word has two meanings, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. But the redundancies that are in place, is it on purpose, right? Is it for the sake of a better design? Versus, is this just a whole lot of extra cost and a whole lot of extra failure points that are contributing to nothing? You know, systems just for systems' sake versus some kind of purpose behind it. So I do think about it a lot in terms of it's a challenge in commercial real estate to really think about it and push that holistic design compared to just the siloed approach. One system, we didn't have that system, boom, let's get that system in place. Now it's working, we're good. And just not considering that holistic design. So that's really challenging commercial real estate.
And also, what about security? Because I mean, who owns the data? It's got to be the client, hasn't it? In a building, it should be theirs. I don't think they kind of think about it, but for me, that would be the thing. It should belong to me. I mean, you don't keep the data, do you? You don't sell it, you don't monetize it. Many companies providing services around this would say, okay, well, we'll be an aggregator. We'll sell this, like CoStar. We'll sell loads of information. Yeah.
Andrew, we get asked a lot, how do I monetize this data? And the first thing we'll say, that's probably every episode we repeat this, right, Drew? When we talk about data here, we are talking about data generated by the property systems that's owned by the property. We are specifically not talking about personally identified information from any tenant or employee inside. So we see things as bodies, not as individuals. We do not track what they do. We have no intention to. That's an invasion of privacy, in our opinion. So data that you could monetize there's a plethora of data you could monetize from your property, but we are not talking about selling user track and click and geofencing or anything like that. So collect the data, right? Own the digital infrastructure, and then we can talk AI. But Andrew, what happens when a property owner skips the digital infrastructure step and jumps right to an application or jumps right to PropTech or this or that is going to solve this problem, and then they look the other way?
Well, I don't think it's on their agenda. I mean, I think this is, it comes back to when we first started working together. It took me 5 months, and I'm a pretty clever guy, so my dog tells me. And I can talk to a founder. I know you're not a PropTech. I know you don't see yourself as that, but I can get on a call with the founder, and within 10 minutes or sometimes 3, I've got the concept right. They do this for this stakeholder, that's it. And, in the early days, I was thinking, okay, are they supplying, internet services? What is it? And then I realized what it was. And I thought, okay. And then because I didn't really know too much about commercial real estate, the working models, the financial models, I was thinking, okay, well, what value has this? And then when you started telling me about how much money you could save people, I said, well, you can't tell them that, operators, because they wouldn't believe you. I said, you need to. I think we had those conversations. Okay, you can't give them these figures. And usually when I say to people, you can't give them these figures, it's because the figures are small. With you, the savers were huge. And I'm thinking, no one will believe you. How can you get new clients telling them this? Because I'd go, well, this does not make sense.
Despite case studies, we do get cynicism. And then somebody will go do it on their own, and they'll come back and say, you are right. We were leaving so much money on the table. But that's great, because the industry is getting better, right? If they save money, then they can provide a better experience at a lower cost to the tenants. And I do think we have a problem, not just in the United States, but across the world with rental rates and apartments. Owners have seen nice growth, but they also know that trajectory is not sustainable for all kinds of economic reasons. So
yeah, it'll get to a natural level.
Okay, Andrew, what do you think separates the companies that succeed from those that stall out? Like, as you think about all the founders that you've worked with, is there any commonality to that bifurcation?
Yeah.
Says.
Yeah, I would say for someone starting a company up to get into a really useful exit, if indeed that's what they want. I mean, because some people say, well, actually, I just want a big business. I know I've got investors and all the rest of it, but if we were turning over, tens of millions every year or 200-300 million a year, but in their journey, it's 25 key people I always thought will make the difference. So I'm not talking about their team. It's the people they meet by serendipity, the people that they bump into or get connected to that will make all the difference. And these people will be their advocates, people with advice. Yeah, sure, the money men are very, very important. And if it's not dumb money, that's better too. If somebody likes to invest in a certain niche and you're in that niche, that's great. The founders are really important, the people pushing it, and perhaps not to give up. One of my clients 5 years ago, he had no real idea what he was doing. I worked out who he should exit to, and I introduced him to that person or that company within the first month. But he had no customers, didn't know what it was, and but in my mind, I thought, well, they had a big need, and he had a small thing that they would use, 1 million times. So that's kind of where it works. So coming back to your point, Drew, I always am quite harsh when I talk to founders because I just go, yeah, this sounds great. How are you going to make the money? Commercial ideation, I always think, okay, would my dog buy it? Would my dog use it? I keep saying my dog. My dog has been on so many calls with so many people over the years and been with me at 2 a.m. when I'm tapping away. My wife's going, what are you doing? I'm going, I'm tapping away with the dog. She's been with me on this journey. And I truthfully think, we get on a call. It isn't so much what they're trying to do, it's will they execute it as well? That's the other thing. There are founders who get loads and loads of investment and they're like, they never get out of the trench. They're like, yeah, we're just going to tweak this and all the rest of it. And you've got other people who are saying, like, we're trying to sell this, our revenue is going from, $5,000 a month to 10,000 to 15 to 50 to 100K a month. And there'll be others who 2 years on are, well, we're still not monetizing this yet. And I'm thinking, because you're scared. You don't want to go out there because, will the customers buy? You need to be tested on yourself.
There's a problem, and it isn't just in prop tech. I think it's in venture world largely. Founders think because they raise $2, $5, $10, $20 million that they have a successful company.
Absolutely.
And Drew and I over the years have turned down money because that money starts to control the trajectory instead of listening
Very
to
much
the
so.
market making decisions.
Yep.
So the funding does not equate to success. I mean, VCs know that. They expect 1 in 10 companies to return. Actually, in that 1 in 10, they're going to get a 15 to 1 or greater return. That's how the model works. So they know that 9 out of 10 of their investments are going to fail. How much money do they put in them in rounds 2 and 3 is their question later on. They hold back money for follow-on funds because they know some people are going to just get mired, in mediocrity or never get a product market fit. It's a theory that didn't work. So we see it in all kinds of industries. And we get asked all the time by clients, who are your investors? And we can pridefully say we're profitable, right? We don't have big investors.
Yeah, which again is unusual. It's a proper business. It's a proper business. But you are. We run a press service. I get sent press releases every day, millions or bidding in investment rounds. I'm thinking, well, this isn't news. Well, what do you need the cash for? Why are you burning the cash so much? And is this going to get you? I mean, if you're just going to spend the money on marketing, great. If you've got market fit, but if it's I need more cash because I need to build something else, then that's often the way.
I think we could do a whole nother podcast on this, Andrew, but that's, it's our fault. We let it go that way. I think Drew has a question. I can see him nodding his head. He's itching to ask you.
Yeah. Andrew, is there something that you wish more prop tech founders understood about the realities of real estate ownership?
Yeah, I do. I think even now, and I thought, oh my God, often these companies are built upon a personal moment. I call it, the in the shower moment. They have this great idea, or they're going through something. They want to buy something, or they were going to rent office space, or they're going to do something, and they go, "Oh, I need to solve this." And I just think they should do a lot more homework. But often I get on calls with people, and I say, "Well, there's 10 companies already doing this, and some of them are quite big animals. You just thought of it, but you weren't the first person. Maybe someone in 1968 thought this. Hadn't never you heard of this company, by the way?" And I've had people sort of say, "Well, they've stolen my idea," and I go, "Well, you weren't even born then." So I think it's quite narrow sometimes that people have this very not knowing. And I've always felt I get comforted when I talk to somebody who's about 42, 45, and they want to do something in property technology, you want to be a founder? Because I'm hopeful for 20 years they've been in that industry, in that bit that doesn't work very well. They want to change. Because I'm thinking they really know, rather than the other guy who's, or girl who's 26, who theoretically but has never done a day in the industry. And I'm thinking, sometimes that's useful because you can leapfrog. Okay, we don't need to do it that way because it can be done another way. But a lot of the time, there are reasons why analog does it in a certain way because it's got to wait for everyone else or the other stakeholders to get modern. If you're driving around in an electric car and everyone's on horseback, you don't get very far, do you? You can't charge this thing, the electric car. You'll go a lot faster than these horses, but they'll be the ones doing all the work and moving people and goods and services. And that's what I sort of say to people. You've kind of got to be in the middle rank. You can't be the start and you can't be at the back.
We can tell you from firsthand experience, we have been early to market with some solutions. And it requires being patient, but you still have to provide services of value to customers so you can derive revenue and be patient. So yeah, some of the things that we're doing now, we actually thought up nearly a decade ago, but it was entirely too early. So, and now it's all about AI ready. So, but you work with players around the world, Andrew, not just in the UK. So are there markets that are getting this right where, property ownership and data actually align?
Yeah, I mean, next month I'm going to be a judge in Saudi Arabia. Now, I don't work with Saudi Arabia, that's for my own reasons. But I don't mind doing judging commercial real estate sort of companies and what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, they're just trying to build certain companies and do certain things. And I wouldn't say they're clients, but I advise people in China, but not for money. And again, I sort of think, well, I live in the UK. It's a liberal, regime that we've got here. In more, well, I suppose to kind of places like, different places that I think if you're a dictator, and I mean, I'm a bit of a dictator. When I used to have my own business, it's kind of my way or the highway. So I definitely was that kind of person. But I think that if you're in a less liberal regime where things are done a certain way, things can be done really, really quickly. So, this is why we're seeing cities and all this being built in certain places because they're saying, well, this is the way we're going to do it. And they don't have to worry about planning. They don't have to worry about anybody saying this isn't good for us because they will just, have a blank canvas. They'll even relocate people or worse. But they'll just say, right, we're building all this now and doing this. And they can roll out, a city in 3.5 years. Now, whether that's morally correct or not, I don't know. But they're using technology to do that. And it just proves that, oh my God, this could be done really, really quickly. Let's get rid of paper and we use this. So in my mind, I'm not conflicted. I'm just sort of saying, look, I was born in the UK. I see the world through that prism. If I was born in China, if I was born somewhere else across the world, I would probably think this is the norm. But in certain places, here in the UK, we have great problems over planning because people sort of say, oh, no, we don't want that here. And I'm thinking, God, you go to some other countries, you would disappear. You can't, you had that opinion. Someone would say to you, well, we're going to build this. This city's going to come. Whereas here, it'll take 25 years. So that holds back progress, does it? I don't know. But it's very interesting to sort of see that technology also fits inside the political and the financial dynamics of different places. I mean, obviously we're seeing Dubai and different places at the moment. They're just going crazy over property technology. I don't know that they know what it is, but they're throwing a lot of money at it, and it needs a lot of money. It's like a rocket ship, isn't it? It needs huge amounts of money to get a small amount out the other end, but that small amount is really, really important.
I think the industry is ripe for consolidation because there's a lot of parallel activities, even though 4 prop tech companies are solving 4 different problems. Their operational infrastructure and their customers' infrastructure are the same. So the expense basis is 4x what it should be. And, capitalism heals that. It takes time and it takes companies going out of business or get swallowed up, but capitalism will solve that problem.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's exactly what's happening. They run out of fuel and they stop. And then in the end, you look around and you go, there used to be 17 of them. Now there's 3. Now there's 2. Now there's 1.
Yeah. So, Andrew, in the next few years, do you see AI changing the way that prop tech products deliver value?
It's proving problematic for a lot of established prop tech companies. was talking to someone the other day, and he always said to me, "Look, I'm always worried about company X, Y, and Z breathing down my neck." They're quite a big company, and they're sort of saying, he said, "I'm more worried now about the new company that's using AI to build itself because it can outstrip me. My technology is now quite old, and I wanted to sell my company, and I'm worried now about the valuation of my company because all these great things that I've done and all the rest of it speak for nothing now." Because AI is so voracious, and I think it is. I mean, it's just eating a tremendous amount of industries and all the rest of it. And I mean, I do consultancy, and I used to say to people, "Look, I'll do you a report, cost you $8,000 and all the rest of it." And now I just say, "Get AI to do your report, and then we'll talk about it." I said, because the information is out there, and all I used to do is talk. But I mean, it's different for me because I actually talk to the founders. So I don't think AI is talking to the founders. It's picking up obviously stuff that's published, but perhaps not what's in someone's head that week, that month, which is perhaps where I have an advantage, shall we say.
Yeah, no, that's good because that was the second part of my question was, the role that human judgment will still play even as AI is ramped up and introduced into avenues where it hasn't been introduced and implemented before.
I don't know. I'm going to upset you. I think it's the other way. I already think AI is more intelligent than we are and can think. 'Cause people say, well, can it think? And I think, well, anything that we can do, it can do, but better.
They could do it
But
faster for sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
So,
the speed is incredible.
yeah, that's its advantage.
Right.
Does it really think right now? No, not at this layer, but that is coming. But it has access to everything ever documented, right? And it can quote unquote think, but it's consolidating and streamlining so for your consumption in a very condensed manner. And anything that's ever been documented since the beginning of time, it has access to, and you as a person does not. So we perceive that it's intelligent, but really it just has a depth of knowledge and a speed to deliver that.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that uh, the younger generations at the moment seem to want to be work less. I mean, like you two, I mean, we've all worked all the hours, 100-hour weeks, and all the rest of it forever under tremendous pressure. And I would dream of working 30 hours a week, not as pressured, because someone else is doing everything. But then there comes other problems because not everyone is created equal as well. There would be people who still would want to work 100 hours, and there are people who would quite enjoy not having to work.
Well, like you mentioned about that prop tech founder that's leery of the company using AI to build itself. I share with my sons often, like, you're not going to lose your job to AI. If you lose your job, it'll be to somebody using AI. So that founder, to his credit, is thinking about that relative to his competition. So how do you balance speed and sustainability in prop tech growth, both for founders and for the clients and even the investors?
I think the thing that keeps people up at night is not taking risks. So, and now we live in a very, very, very risky and changed situation. It's so interesting. We're at kind of, I can remember when it was the millennium, Findersickle, year 2000, and now we're at 25 years on, and everything seems to have changed so dramatically. World order, country order. Obviously, you have a certain president mixing things up in a certain way. And I sort of think, well, this unpredictability, when there's confusion, you've got to do something because to do nothing is dangerous. And I think what used to happen is you used to have companies who would incrementally grow their business a bit, look at what their competitors are doing, borrow the best ideas from those companies, and kind of try and keep ahead of the curve. And now you've got these really agile, tiny little companies coming from nowhere, wiping everybody out, who themselves 5 years later may just fizzle out because, oh my God, someone's just bought them for a fantastic amount of money and they weren't worth it. Because the fickle human beings now want to do stuff the other way.
Yeah, we call that FOMO, fear of missing out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
fair missing
now
out.
open the door. Oh, I'm going to jump into this opening. Like, what's next for you in PropTech-X? I mean, what are you most excited to see about that you are doing to impact the industry?
Giving good advice. I mean, the funniest thing is, I still work with founders. I've just taken a couple of clients who are doing diverse things. One is procurement. One is actually at the start, he's trying to work out what it is that he should be fixing, and we're honing down on that. And I say, well, whatever you want to fix, when we know what that is, I've got a whole host of people that I can plug you into who will, mentor you and give you good advice and, for free, but they'll challenge you on different things. I very much, though, am getting into selling companies because I've now been doing this almost 9 years. And I've met so many companies over the time, and they trust me and they come to me, and often they'll sort of say, oh, I want to have a chat. And I go, okay, you want to exit or you want to do stuff. So I get involved in that. And that is fantastic because the main role I have there is setting the sale price. And again, this comes back to not, I knew nothing about commercial real estate until I talked to you guys. I knew nothing about selling companies.
You were deep in PropTech. You just didn't understand the customer now.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't understand how you sell companies and all the rest of it, all the valuations, and I didn't realize that you have to do due diligence and lots of different stuff, and then you get to a price. And I used to sell property for 30 years, so I just thought, well, we'll get to a price, we'll agree it with the seller and the buyer, and then when all the others come in, all the analysts and everything, it's nonsense anyway, because at the end of the day, they want to do a deal. This company needs to buy this, and this company wants to sell. And we did 3 of these, and then someone said, this is bizarre, what? We haven't got this fixed price. And I put my hand up and I said, well, I agree that. I find somebody who wants to buy them, I agree. I find someone who wants to sell, and I agree a price. Blind. And I said, but the deal is we stay at this. Of course, if the tech isn't what it's meant to be and you don't want to buy them, you don't buy them, but we can't play around with the price. And that's how I get them to sell and them to buy. And they're going crazy because sometimes they go, well, we don't think it's worth this. And other times they go, well, we think we can get more. And then I say to the founder, don't get greedy. This is $30 million. You're taking it. You don't even know this company. But the funniest thing, though, is whenever we do deals, it's because they trust me and the dog. It's because this network. So we talk all about AI and all the rest of it, but it is this, I know that person. I trust it. Or I trust her. It's that network thing. Yeah, it's such a strange thing. So it's a very personal thing, isn't it?
It's very powerful.
Which is why you do business with who you do business with, and they want to stay with you. And, it's like, yeah, we trust these guys. They're going to, we're not too sure what they do, but it makes us money. And that's what we want. Because bottom line, that's what you want. You want something that's trusted. It's going to cost you money. But as long as you make more money than it costs, it safeguards you into the future, then that's a pretty good deal, I think. I'm kind of more sort of M&A stuff, I guess, but not in a traditional way. I think if I'd been trained, I wouldn't have got away with what I know. But people trust me because they go, well, he trusts him, so we're going to trust him. And at the end of the day, if the companies we sold 4. No one's come back to me and said that's a bad deal, both sides. Because the founders tend not to leave. They're there for 2 or 3 years as an earn-out. Then often they jump off into the company and they go and do something else in the company. So they not only do they get their money, they get to stay there.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, Andrew, this final piece here we call the extra floor. We take you to the extra floor. It's just a quick set of questions.
Sure.
To help our listeners get to know the human side of the leader that we're interviewing. So
Okay.
here's the ground rules. They're very, very, very stringent.
Okay.
Short answers, gut level responses, shoot straight or
Sure.
whatever. Have fun with it. Whatever you feel the moment you hear the question. What's a book or a podcast that shaped how you think?
Because if I said podcasts, I mean, I listen to so many, it would be unfair. But I think podcasts are great. I walk my dog a lot. To listen to one of those for an hour is fantastic. I couldn't name a book, I'll be honest with you, that jumps out to me right now. But I like books because I just like the tactile that is in front of me. And as I get older, I can kind of hold it nearer to my head to read.
Yeah. Well, in terms of podcast, it's pronounced peak property performance. That's the way that's pronounced.
The book. Yeah.
Yeah. I expected Drew to hop on that one. That was funny. I was just waiting for it. Like,
We are serializing it over a year. And we're getting. I get people who ask me about this actually. They do read a bit, and I'm hoping that's feeding back to you guys.
yeah, when you offered to let us run a piece every week for a year, I was pretty flattered. So yeah, we take it seriously and think we built a content plan, and we're just giving you something every week, and we really enjoy that.
No, there are people, we have a lot of people in that space, and they do read it, and they come to me and sort of say, "Well, why did we do it?" And I said, "Well, they've got a book, and you want to write a book, we could do the same thing."
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what's the best piece of career or life advice that you've ever received? Just pick one and share it.
Don't get to the age of 60 and look back and think, I wish I'd done something differently. Realize that every day you have option A, B, or C, and it doesn't really matter which you take. You're just going to take one, and it'll lead you on to the next thing. It'll lead you on to the next thing, and it'll lead you on to the next thing. So I would say don't overthink it. I very much do sweat the small stuff. I do microanalyze everything. I can't stop that. It's just what's inside my head. But it's useful when I work with people because I try not to let them down because my brain is saying we mustn't let them down. So it kind of works for me. But I think the advice is it doesn't really matter what you do and when, because life has a nice way of there's been these arcs. It comes round again. I can think back in my life to when someone said, "Look, okay, do you want to? We're going to make you more senior. Do you want to look after 20 or 30 branches, or do you want to look after three?" And I said three because I thought that I was, wasn't ready. And looking back, I wish I'd gone the other way. But then I think, well, it was a decision at the time. I thought I wasn't worthy. I think most of us aren't worthy, but that's how you do it, isn't it? You learn. You learn on the job.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you might have hinted at the answer to this one, Andrew, but what's a small daily habit or ritual that makes a big difference to you?
Yeah, it's about 1 hour taking a dog for a walk. Because there's two things to it. One is I had to do it at a certain pace because my watch tells me to. The dog gets exercise, so she'll stay calm. But then if I get on a call or something straight after, I am so energized and my mind is buzzing and it's solving the stuff, and you're just so on top of it. And yeah, that's an hour of exercise. I do like half an hour in the gym every day too. And I'm thinking, it keeps me alive, keeps me alert. And it's time when you're turned off. I tend not to have calls and stuff like that. I sometimes listen to podcasts, but I do that religiously, and it keeps me mentally kind of happy. Because what would I rather? I mean, I've got Anne, my lovely partner. It's a close thing. I've had a burning house. Who I grab first, the dog or Anne? Probably both, one under each arm. But, what's the perfect day? A day with a dog, So I think if you're doing something every day that you enjoy, it keeps you happy. And if you're in that good state, I mean, every day I see the dog, I say, "Are you okay?" And I sort of talk to the dog, and I think it's an important part of it, isn't it? This human interaction.
We take the elevator to the extra floor, and you took the express elevator because in one answer, you took the next two questions. It's what's a simple pleasure you never skip? And like you said that too much as well. And when you're not working, what do you love to do that recharges you? I think, and a lot of times those aren't the same for people. They think a simple pleasure is not the daily habit that makes a difference. And you put them all together. And that's the same. It's when you're not working, you like to do it. It's very unusual that we get all three the answer. Like, so kudos to you for having a child. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I work for myself, like you guys. It's so funny. We work for ourselves, but we don't because we work for the paying clients.
Yeah, we work for the
Well,
consumer.
that's right. Who are the most demanding. They're more so than the boss over your head. But you get to choose when you do stuff. That's the key thing, isn't it?
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a fascinating discussion. Really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone listening out there. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, all the things. Click it twice if you can. And we'll see you next on the next episode. See you about to perform. Them click it twice.
Andrew, it's always a pleasure. Today was normal for that's with Andrew. Yeah, always a
Yeah.
pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, lovely to see you guys. Take care, Drew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye, Bill. Bye.